So hello, welcome to the video and welcome to Stratford International Railway Station. I do try to mix up the locations I use to film these intros. So I'm at a railway station, which means an adventure is beginning. It's not that great an adventure this time perhaps, because today I'll be flying with Aegean from London Heathrow down to Athens, continuing with them on up to Thessaloniki. Why? Well, I want to go to Thessaloniki, but I'm also flying today to gather some points and, more crucially, some qualifying flights towards regaining my gold status with Star Alliance. Yes, regaining rather than retaining, because I have allowed myself to drop to silver. I'll explain a little bit later in the video why I did that. But there is a high degree of jeopardy to today's video, because as I sit here right now, I don't know what cabin I'm going to be flying in down to Athens. I booked an economy seat, but when you achieve gold with Aegean, they give you 4 upgrade vouchers, and about 5 or 6 weeks ago I called to apply one of those vouchers against this flight. When I've done that before, 2, 3, 4 days before travel, it gets confirmed, you have to pay the difference in taxes, and you get the confirmed seat in the higher cabin, but that hasn't happened yet. Now, a couple of hours ago when I last checked, they were still selling 3 seats in that business cabin, so the plane looks busy but not completely full. So I think I'll only find out for sure when I get to the airport whether I'm going to be in that cabin or not. But the jeopardy continues, because unlike One World, silver status within the Star Alliance scheme doesn't give you lounge access. Now again, Aegean will give you some lounge passes when you reach gold, but they only work in Aegean's own lounges, not partner lounges they may use in outstations. So I may suffer the ignominy on this trip of not having access to a lounge. I do have a plan B, which involves my Dragon Pass, so all is not lost, and I have been able to upgrade the flight from Athens up to Thessaloniki by bidding for an upgrade, and I'll talk about that a bit later on as well. So I will have lounge access in Athens, and I will have a business class experience for that second much shorter flight. All of this delicious jeopardy, and if you want to find out how it all gets resolved, then you've really got no choice but to stick around. Hi, I'm Matt and this is Matt's Planet. I aim to entertain, educate and inspire with my travel adventures, from planning to execution. I'll show you how you can travel in style for a lot less than you'd think. So subscribe so you can come with me. Wow, I was there and I'm keen to see what happened. Left myself a fair to-do list in that intro, so let's get cracking. So into Terminal 2, all Star Alliance airlines home at Heathrow, and Aegean lives in check-in zone B. I went to the business class check-in desk, even though technically I wasn't yet entitled to do so, as I thought the agent there would be best equipped to tell me what was happening. And she told me very clearly that the upgrade hadn't cleared, but...
You're on the list. But I think it'll be at the gates when they can do that. Okay.
She printed me a boarding pass, confirmed the gate, and looked back into the computer before saying,
the actual upgrade.
You have been upgraded.
Looking back at this, her tone wasn't 100% convincing.
Still get the lounge access here, sir.
Okay, cool. My day just got a lot better.
Fast track and the Aegean Business Lounge.
Okay.
Lufthansa Lounge is closed, so you can get to use the Star Alliance B Gate Lounge.
I've got my walking shoes on, so...
At the B Gates Lounge, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Fast track security.
Thank you very much.
But that was pretty clear. I had been upgraded and they'd only be able to confirm it and reprint the boarding pass at the gate. This made sense to me because there was a small difference in taxes due to the air passenger duty, which I believe Aegean can avoid having to collect by operationally upgrading me at the gate rather than doing it ahead of time at the check-in. But either way, I had fast track and lounge access, both of which were clearly stated on the boarding pass. Things were going well. So I headed to the security lane and my boarding pass didn't scan. I explained the situation to the chap, and he thought that even though the pass said fast track, as the upgrade hadn't actually gone through yet, the barcode hadn't been updated with fast track access. He let me through anyway, and it turned out to be yet another occasion where the regular security lane would probably have been quicker. So the fast track wasn't coded into the barcode. Can you guess what happened next? The biggest challenge at Terminal 2 is at the B gates, where the Star Alliance lounges that were open are located. is a long hike from the A gates. There's no train, although there is some walkway assistance on the way to the B gates. If you're departing from a B gate, that's all okay, but if you're departing from an A gate, you face a long, unassisted walk back from B to A. Not a big deal perhaps if you're refreshed and relaxed from your lounge time, but a right pain if you're not. So I headed straight to the recently refurbished Singapore lounge. It smelt absolutely amazing, by the way. And you guessed it, despite what the boarding pass said, lounge access wasn't encoded in the barcode and they wouldn't let me in. The agents were fantastic though. They tried to call Lufthansa and Aegean in an attempt to sort it out, but neither of those other airlines was answering their phone. I also tried the Air Canada lounge and they were also brilliant. They said that they turn people away multiple times a day and they think it's Lufthansa's fault for not having negotiated substitute access for people when they were closed for refurbishment. Although how Lufthansa doing that would change what Aegean encodes into its barcodes is beyond me. I also tried the United lounge as I was there and they were just downright rude. So denied the entry Aegean had promised me, I sat in the B terminal for 10 minutes to calm down before walking all the way back to the A gates. I have lodged a complaint with Aegean. The Lufthansa lounge closed 14 days before I travelled, so for this to still be happening is pretty outrageous. Given all of this, I didn't have a whole lot of time left before boarding when I got back to the A gates. It had taken the Singapore lounge agents quite some time to discover that neither Lufthansa nor Aegean were answering their phones. I was now really hungry, but I was getting upgraded, right? So I'd get a nice substantial meal on the plane, right? There were perhaps half a dozen people queuing for access to the Plaza Premium Lounge, which I could access by using a Dragon Pass entry coupon I get from having an account with Barclays, but I decided instead to cash a coupon in for £15 of free stuff at Jones the Grocer. I was really hot, and this really hit the spot. Indeed, I may even have had a second one. Off to the gate, and you guessed it, I didn't get upgraded, and I have no idea why.
No, you are not getting upgraded on this flight, but still on the 810.
Thank you.
The chap was a little brusque, I thought. I was pretty hacked off by this point, as you can probably imagine, but as I get older, these sorts of knocks get easier to overleap. And as I was travelling to make videos, my overriding thought was that I would at least now be able to make a video about the Aegean economy experience, and I'd have something quite interesting to talk about in this video up to this point. So onto the plane, a 1.5-year-old Airbus A320neo, a typical Euro business setup with flexibly sized business cabin where you get the same seat as in economy even if the middle seats are left free. It is a good looking cabin. I was in row 8 that day, right behind the business divider, and there obviously wasn't enough upgrade demand to move that curtain back just one row. 30 inches of legroom from rows 5 to 10, but beware, this drops to 28 inches behind the exit rows. 30 inches is tight, 28 is downright uncomfortable. That curtain is a little annoying, but I got my first stroke of luck this entire trip in that the rest of my mini row was empty. A tray table which behaved just like a tray table, nice and clean at least. Above this is a device holder, tricky to operate one-handed, and to the right of that was a USB socket. Overhead lights and air vents. Here endeth the seat tour. Business was completely full. I'd have been really miffed if there'd been an empty seat up front, but economy was perhaps 70% full. We pushed back on time, and as we taxi and take off, how had I known that there were still seats available in business class that morning? I use Expert Flyer to see what seats are being sold by airlines. I made a video about it a while back now, but I think the contents are all still valid. You find availability on the flight you want to check, and you'll get a strip of gibberish. With a moment's training you can decode that gibberish, as each letter relates to a fare bucket and the number relates to how many seats are available for sale. Expert Flyer gets its data from the same place as the online booking agents. So C3 means 3 seats are available for sale in the business cabin, and Y9 means that at least 9 are available in economy. C and Y are the most expensive fare buckets for those cabins, but given this would have been a last-minute purchase, the airline would want to charge as much as it can for any traveller that has to travel with such late notice. So somehow those 3 seats got taken by others. I'd like to assume by those seeking an upgrade with higher status than I held, rather than by mates of people working for Aegean. But I'll never know. Anywho, I'm not bitter, and I'll stress that this was a great opportunity to review Aegean's economy cabin. I went to the loo after takeoff, having no one else in my row helped here. This is a densified version of the A320, as an extra row of seating has been crammed in by pushing the lavatories right to the very back of the aircraft, and they are extremely snug. That indent houses a crew seat on the other side of the door, which is used for takeoff and landing. It was very, very snug, but at least it was clean. Back to my seat, and it was a 3-hour run down to Athens that afternoon. And despite all of my grumbles, it was actually a relatively pleasant experience. Having a row to myself definitely helped. And Aegean does offer a meal for the economy cabin. A light meal, I think it would be accurate to say, but there was a choice, moussaka or veggie pasta, served with a side of coleslaw. Beer or wine to accompany, and that beer really hit the spot. And dear viewer, I have to report that the moussaka and the side were absolutely delicious, although I could have eaten half a dozen of them by this point. I settled in and was able to make myself really quite comfortable. That curtain was a little annoying, although it prominently displayed its serial number in case I wanted to pick one up for my own living room. It's a slimline seat which facilitates the densified cabin layout, but I found it to be really quite comfortable. Then, much to my surprise, the crew came around again. Coffees and teas this time, although they would have dashed off to get me another drink if I'd insisted. I was actually happy with some water. Plus a sweet treat, oat bites, and the packaging promised a lot. And once again, they were absolutely delicious, although when you ripped into the packaging, it was a little disappointing that there were only 4 nuggets in the pack to enjoy. Wi-Fi was offered, although it didn't work on this flight. Indeed, it didn't work on any of the 4 flights I took with Aegean. The system does allow you to access entertainment on board, which is a really cool feature and a welcome one. Darkness had descended by the time we reached Athens, and it was a smooth and uneventful landing. So why had I allowed myself to drop to silver? I'd picked Aegean to be my Star Alliance airline, as retaining status with them is almost trivially easy. You only need to gather 12,000 miles and take 4 Aegean flights in the year to retain that status. Getting 12,000 miles from 4 Aegean flights is possible if you buy a business class ticket and continue on to a distant destination like Dubai, but doing so is very expensive and doesn't deliver those 12,000 miles at a competitive cost per mile. In my year as a Gold member, I'd only taken a couple of quite short flights with Star Alliance partners that had delivered barely 2,000 miles into my account, so I concluded that I'd have needed to make 2 extra trips to get the 10,000 points and the 4 Aegean flights I was missing to retain Gold. And that didn't make a lot of sense, given it only takes 24,000 miles and 4 Aegean flights to get back up to Gold if you drop to silver. I have a couple of high-yielding Star Alliance partner flights booked, which should deliver 17,000 miles, so these 4 Aegean flights should complete the requirements to get me back up to Gold. And in future years, I just need to make sure I book something of substance on a Star Alliance carrier, such that I can achieve the rest of the 12,000 miles I need to retain Gold with just 1 4-flight trip on Aegean. There's still a lot of destinations in Greece I'd love to visit, and it's really not a hardship to fly on Aegean, even if you don't manage to use your upgrade vouchers to get into business. So Aegean's economy product is really very good. The legroom is poor, and it's important to get into the emergency exit rows or a seat further forward, otherwise the seat's legroom will be a form of torture. But the catering is great and the crew were friendly, albeit a little standoffish. Less like Robert Palmer backing singers on this flight too, which is probably a good thing. Bus gates are a bit annoying, but I suppose it does cut down on the walking. I was flying onwards to a domestic location, so I think I had no choice other than to clear immigration, exit landside, and then go back through security to get to the gate. There is a shortcut if you connect to another non-Schengen destination, but I didn't see a shortcut for a Schengen departure. But it was no huge effort, and as I was in business class for this onward flight, I had no issues accessing the fast-track security lane, although once again I'm convinced it was no quicker. Aegean has refreshed its Schengen lounge since my last visit, and it's really quite nice. It now matches the styling of the other Aegean lounges. Smaller than the non-Schengen lounge, but at this time of night it was very quiet. I thought the food offering was very good. Quite a few cold, snacky options plus hot dishes. That was lamb kebabs and those were chicken lollipops. Both were yummy as I was really hungry still. Soft drinks could be found here. There were a wide range of sweets on this central table and biscuits and other snacks behind you. As for beverages, red and white Greek wines were on offer. Some chilled beers could be found down there, and there were a good range of spirits. A few were very Greek, and I had no idea what they were, but a wide range of good options was offered. I only had about 30 minutes in the lounge as we were called for boarding quite early. At least we could board this flight from the terminal rather than via a bus. This was going to be a very short flight, so it wasn't worth using an upgrade voucher on it, but Aegean gives you the option to bid for an upgrade on most of their flights. I've been successful previously bidding a couple of notches above the minimum, so I lodged a bid for this flight bang on the minimum bid amount of €35 to see if that would work, and about 3 days before travel I got an email confirming that the bid had been accepted. This was another A320neo, only a couple of weeks older than that first plane. 4 rows allocated to business class on this leg, so I'd selected seat 2A that evening. As I mentioned earlier, rows 5 through 10 have 30 inches of pitch, but rows 1 to 4 get 32 inches, luxury, and the same setup as the previous flight, albeit with the middle seat blocked. I lucked out again by having no one on the aisle. They got us aboard with plenty of time to spare, so we did have a bit of a wait before an on-time pushback and up. We would have got a cracking view of Athens had it not been dark. 36 minutes in the air that evening, so perhaps 15 minutes with the seatbelt sign off, but the crew still managed to offer a service. A light but completely delicious snack. No menu, so I've no idea what it was, but it really was superb. Washed down with some Greek wine. There was even time for a coffee round afterwards, although I passed on that. And down into Thessaloniki. Having now been there, I know how to pronounce it, unlike when I recorded that intro. This was the 4th trip I've made with Aegean since joining their frequent flyer scheme, and it was the first time they've dropped the ball, and at Heathrow they dropped that ball quite spectacularly. Fortunately, I didn't allow it to spoil the overall experience. Once I got onto the Aegean plane, they looked after me very well. But a complaint is in, and I'm very interested to see how they handle it. As you've seen, I've got a clear recording of what the check-in agent said, if there's any pushback from them on what I said I was promised. Either way, I'd happily fly Aegean again in economy or in business. They really are very good, and are probably my favourite Euro airline. I bought these flights during one of Aegean's fairly regular 50% off sales and paid just £235 for these 2 flights and the 2 flights back. Together they earned me 4,800 status points and 5,300 award points, as I get a bonus for holding status when flying. That's 4.8p per point gross, or 3.8p per point if you net off the value of the award points earned. That's just a number without any context, but from my research, anything under 8p per point is excellent. If you could sustain that net cost, you'd only need 450 quid to retain gold and 900 quid to regain it. I did pay an extra €35 to upgrade that short flight, and I'm happy that I did as an experiment and to see what the service is like on a flight that short, but I wouldn't do it again. It's not a huge amount, but at €1 per flying minute, it's just not worth it. So thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Please give the video a like if you did, and subscribe if you're new. Plenty more like this on the channel already, with plenty more coming. And leave me a comment if you've flown Aegean. What did you think of them? And if you'd like to support what I'm doing more directly, I have a Patreon account, the link to which is in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.